we're shooting a little behind the scenes of some Instagram stories that I need to make for Caesar's Cuisine. The pups love this stuff. A little holiday vibe to it, but mostly just to see how fast they can eat it. They love this stuff. Hold on. Oh. No. And time. Sedona's done. Made a bit more of a mess than expected, trying to create some space for the shot, but glad to give the pups a treat on this day. Mwah, mwah. All right, and I want to say about a year and a half ago, my buddy Chase, who I've stayed with in Seattle, we've met up with him in San Diego. He's been on the vlog a bunch before. He had mentioned wanting to get a tutorial about how I edit some of my Instagram photos. So I thought the one from yesterday was really unique that I posted on Instagram. Here, I'll bring it up right now. This photo of us walking up the sunset in between the Hollywood Sign Hike and Wisdom Tree. I have to admit it was a bit of a challenge, but once you played around with it, the colors really popped and I was really happy with how it turned out. For everyone watching this that is new to photography, new to editing, or even if you're advanced, I'd love to hear what you think about these editing styles and any tips that you can provide. I'm always looking to enhance my experience. I am self-taught on all of these platforms, and the growth of my photography from when I started adventuring full-time with the pups, the growth is immense, and that's anything when you put in the time and the work. We're coming up on 3 years of doing this, and my background is more on video and editing and just like storytelling, more so than photography, and so it was a challenge for me, and I love making these mistakes and continuing to work, and there are a lot of mistakes in this photo to begin with. So let's jump on the computer. I import it into Lightroom. It is very backlit, but you can see in the sky that there is a lot of color happening. I'm gonna say from the jump, because it is taking such a dark photo and trying to bring out some light, there is going to be a lot of graininess that comes with it, unfortunately, and we're gonna play around to do our best. The first place that I start is dealing with exposure. I play around with this toggle right here that allows me to fully adjust and play around with the photo. So as we bring more exposure into it, it just brings more light into the photo, and obviously you see we're losing a lot of the sky here, and we'll get that back, but we're just bringing more light to the foreground. So I'm gonna keep bringing this up, and sometimes it doesn't hurt to overexpose it a little bit and then drop it back down as you continue to play around with these different levers. For me, I like to toggle around, kind of knowing that contrast brings out the darkness in certain colors. For me, how I edit a lot of my photos is bringing the highlights down, and you can see that really makes the sky pop. It loses some light around the pups, but I'm confident that when you bring up the shadowing, as you can see, it really allows for us to, in the foreground, to pop a bit more. So I try to stay around like the 0 or 5s, it's even in my head, and it's a bit like of a landing page or a blocked off settings when it really comes to it. So I'm going to drop down the exposure just a little bit and kind of have it balanced. I do want a darkness to it because we are clearly backlit, and I don't want too much graininess to get exposed. I want to get as much light out of this as I can by playing around with it, and I do like, because the dogs are black, I like to enhance the blacks in the photo too, to really make them stand out amongst their surroundings. As we drop back down, playing around with the temperature a little bit, I don't want it to mess with the sky too much, so I'm just gonna go back. We're gonna bring out the vibrance and see really as you can see, that really enhances the sky. The vibrance really works with the background of the photo. It lightens out the front. If we go the other way, it really just is kind of part of the saturation to it, but doesn't enhance it too much the way that saturation does. See the difference there, that the oversaturation really overexposes that. So we're trying to play around with it because obviously there's a lot of color in the sky, and I don't want to do too much. Like there's enough happening here that I don't need to fake it. I'm gonna come back down and play with the texture. This gives us a little hard lining around us, and as you're playing around in Lightroom, you can stop and it'll tell you what each tool does. And some people are going to say this is an older version of Lightroom. This is how I learned how to use it on. I don't like to update my software too often because I'm very comfortable with how this is. I'm very happy with how my photos come out. It's just setting aside that time to almost relearn or the new features that come with it. And I know I need to, and that should be a 2020 goal. Clarity also is a bit like structure that you might see on the Instagram toggles, and dehaze is bringing out some shadow. So I'm gonna drop it down a little bit because I do like the darkness that comes from that. And so it is very dark around Sedona right here, and I'm gonna lighten that up. I do like how everything's laid out though. It's very centered, and there's a line of sight that comes all the way down to the tree, and I like seeing photos that kind of make your eyes follow this path into the sunset, and we're gonna be right in the center. So with that, we're gonna take the circle function and open it up and bring it over Sedona. Now, it's important to have your feathers on so that it doesn't contrast too hard from this specific circle of editing that's taking place. So let's bring out the exposure a little bit. Let's see what that looks like. It's a little intense on her. I do want to be able to see her. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to expand this a bit more so that it covers more ground and isn't too intense just around Sedona. So let's bring this up a little bit. Let's catch me in it. We'll drop it down a little bit actually. I'm going to do this more in the foreground of this lighting here. And we're going to bring this up. And you can see as if we zoom in, obviously it's very grainy, and no one's gonna be zooming in that intensely on Instagram, but that's just what's gonna happen. I shot this on my Canon 70D with my 10 to 18 millimeter, and so here let's see what it looks like to bring out a little more shadows. We're gonna drop that down because I do like I said, the contrast between the darkness here and the lightness here of the ground. Let's play around with this a little bit, bring out the texture. So one thing that I obviously showed you earlier is this pixelation, and one thing that I like to do to see to make sure that if we can reduce that a little bit is enhancing the noise. And this one will pop up. Come on, I'm not gonna touch it. Maybe it'll tell us what. So the noise really smooths everything out, and obviously if we show the difference, so if we go this way. Yeah, so if we go all the way to the edge, you see how grainy it is from a distance. And then if you go all the way to the other side, you see how smooth it is. So we want to find a little balance of that, but apply some smoothness to it. So overall, there's not a ton that I want to do. I don't want to over edit this photo, and because I know that Instagram is going to compress it also, I sometimes like to use this boxed feature to enhance the sky if necessary. Obviously the exposure is way overblown on this right now for some reason. Let's see what if we here it is. Let's drop that down and see. But we can enhance the sky a little bit more, make it a bit brighter. If we want to add more color to it, I don't think it's that necessary. I'd almost like to remove a little bit of it so that it has a more natural feel. Okay, so I'm feeling really good about that, and we can play around with this. So it's like that. So you can play around with the 5x4 layout, and this is how it's gonna play on Instagram, so you know how the editing is gonna be. It's ooh, yeah. So if we want to do something along those lines, I really like to center me in the photo as much as I possibly can, or at least the pups. Just have it all lined up where everyone's eyes are just flowing through here. So this is all centered. It's like rule of thirds. I don't want to get too much into that, but just kind of way the whole thing lays out. I think I'm really happy with how that is. Once it's exported from Lightroom, I airdrop it to myself on my phone, and then from there I send it to Snapseed, which is an editing tool on my phone. It allows you to tweak it very similarly to Lightroom, and it continues the same aesthetic that I like to see. Despite this photo being a ton of different colors and really spice it up, I'm trying not to do too much. I still think I ended up posting it and feel like I still might have overexposed it a little bit, but every photo I spend about an extra hour overthinking the post. So that's just what's gonna happen. Very excited to see that. Go check out my Instagram page, go like this, make your comment, let me know that you came from YouTube about this photo. Please let me know in the comments what you thought about this editing, if this was helpful, if this wasn't helpful. Everyone has their own style of editing and their own aesthetic. I know I'm just kind of like winging it. It works for me, I'm very comfortable with that, and I've found this look and photography style that suits me and what I feel comfortable with. So until next time, until tomorrow, have a great one, and hopefully you're out adventuring. See ya.